I'm Trek with 2Ks.
Man, all right. I did it this time. I hit the unmute button before I started talking. Hola, hola. Buenos dias, buenas noches, GNGs. My name is Shrek with 2Ks. And this is Shrek with 2Ks Live. All right. So I am trying to test something out. Oh, you know what? For the 5 folks who jumped in, I don't know if that's the bots or if it's real live people, but I appreciate. Basically, this is a pop-up live. I'm having my boy Nib come in. He was the one I was telling y'all about who went to Hong Kong. There was a conference out there, and it was a crypto conference. And so I wanted to get, the bigger community here of warriors in on like their stuff happening in the Asian arena that like I think y'all should be aware of, as well as just like, hey, you can go and explore. Like I'm a big proponent of travel, right? What else? What up? Theater of the Views. What's going on? So, if you don't know at this point, I am like this 2025 is me coming back into doing this content thing. Still been trying to figure out how am I moving through the space going forward. But I appreciate the community over here, the folks that know me, the folks that lurk, the hackers and the scammers, the algo folks out there who just be botting it up. I appreciate all y'all. And do note, I'm not going to say anything to you in these comments about going and doing something with crypto, right? So that is that. And as far as like what I've been going through now is just like reviewing Twitter stuff and then seeing what catches my eye. And I think I might be honing in on like 2 accounts in particular that I follow. And I'm not saying y'all got to follow them. Oh man, it is acting up. Theater of Abuse. How does it look on your end? Is it stagnation, or is it just like playing through? Yeah, I got to figure out another way to do this setup. I might have to start messing around with OBS because the way live stream works for the M browser. And I also need to clear up a bunch of the stuff I have on this damn laptop. But nonetheless. So yeah, how I'm gonna run tonight as a pop-up is introduce my guy Nib, and he's gonna give you a little bit about him, what he feel comfortable with sharing, because he's definitely more on the like privacy side of things. I was surprised he actually agreed to like show himself on camera. And then we're gonna run through a couple of the things that I've been seeing on Twitter that like got my attention. Okay, all right. Well, you know what? As long as the audio is doing what it's supposed to do, I'm gonna try to keep it with that. I'm gonna really have to figure out something else because I thought it was this other software that I had on, the security software that I had on, that was messing me up, but apparently it is not. So I gotta figure out something else. But or just buy a whole new laptop, and it might end up being that. But nonetheless, the idea for tonight's thing, again, this is a pop-up live on a Thursday, is run through some of these stories with my boy Niv, and then we're gonna get into like the whole thing with the conference and being out there in Hong Kong and just the vibe and what he was seeing, right? Again, one of the things I continually say about how when I go through these stories over here, like when I go through these news things, like it's written with a Western bias. And so unless you can either like, start going to those other news sources and like reading the stuff to be able to compare and contrast what you're hearing in the Western news sources versus the Eastern or the Latin American or like Asian, whatever, like you got to compare and contrast these things because the way they be writing stuff over here, it is not as good as, it's not as informative as folks think. All right, so it is delayed. Yeah, damn, bro. Like, and I really thought it was that software that's doing it, but I think it's just really how Restream works. That's the mess up. So again, as long as y'all can catch me on the audio, it's the bigger thing of don't worry about how I look. It's more about, hey, here's what I'm saying. Shoot, I might end up having to do something to. I don't know if I want to go as a no face channel, but I got to figure out something like this month, next month. Well, this month ends on Monday, but anywho. So let me bring my guy in. All right. Can you hear me, bro?
Yes, sir.
All right, bet. There we go. So let me turn this up a little bit. I don't know why it's like that. And I can hear you. Hey, can y'all hear him? Say something real quick.
Testing. Mic check.
Like I can hear you.
Yeah.
See, and then last week I had the issue of where the chat was wonky. So it's like it'd be trade-offs. It'd be trade-offs. But nonetheless,
Carol said she can.
Yes. Okay. Cool. That's what I'm mainly focused on. So, my guy Nib, Black Blockchain Conference was how we caught up.
No, we actually met down in Miami. I know, like that year you had. Yeah.
All right, bet. So let me do a little quick. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. But like, you gotta understand, like, at some points I be really moving and be meeting people places, and then it's like, oh man, I know this. I feel like either I known the person for a minute, or it's just like, yo, so much stuff has happened since then. So it was. That's when like a bunch of us was down in Miami for was that the Bitcoin conference?
They had a lot going on that weekend. There was a Bitcoin conference.
The major thing was Bitcoin conference, but like all the other major plays was down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was hanging out with Crypto Blood. Shout out to Crypto Blood. There's a tweet that he did that caught my attention. I'm gonna bring that up in a couple. All right. Sorry. Go ahead. Do your intro thing.
Oh, it's all good. Now, my name is Neb. I'm just a crypto enthusiast. I'm definitely like a privacy advocate. Do my thing as far as like as far as cybersecurity goes and things of that nature. But really, just wanted to break my my way into the crypto industry and just give my takes on what I see that's going on. I think that there's something bigger at play. But again, like we're all here to like build and figure this thing out together.
Got you. I appreciate. So I met a number of people down when I was down there, and it like everybody was down there. Yo, I met. Wait, what year was that? What year was that?
That was 2022.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and that's literally when Celsius, like,
A
yo,
whole bunch of stuff was
woo,
going on. Man, that was
yo, so much stuff happened after that, like, week. It
yeah.
was crazy. Like, Solana was having issues. They were doing like turnoffs. Celsius had the whole thing where they did the switch for like their registration, and then that turned into like it
Mm-hmm.
was, yo, when I tell y'all it was crazy, because they literally had a whole big like party thing, and then like later that night you started hearing certain like, hey, yo, did you hear about da da da? And then the next day, it was like the next day, depending on what circle you was in, you was hearing stuff. When I tell you, by the time I got home, I was like, all right, bump it, just dump everything, whatever I got on there, gone. Like, I'm out, like it.
Definitely sent some definitely rattled
It
the
was
whole
a
market.
lot.
It was off the
Yeah,
off the
it
chain.
was. But all right, so like I said, what I want to do is jump in through these stories. Y'all can't necessarily see them, but like I said, there's certain accounts on the Twitter side that I am following more now, or no, I've been following them for a while. But if you've noted, as I've been going through these lives, like I've been kind of picking up on things that these two in particular channels post, excuse me, as well as like some other folks. So, for example, if you don't know who Sefdin Amus is, he is the writer of the Bitcoin Standard, the author of the Bitcoin Standard. He is a actual, um, by trade, an economist and a professor. I forget where he actually does his teaching stuff at, or if he's like doing that now. But I know at one point I think he's a professor too. So one of the posts that I, again, scrolling through my feed, and I seen somebody named Miles Deutscher post, it's not just our crypto that got crushed. And this was like within the last 24 hours. And so he's making the point about how Rolexes from 2022 to 2025, like the prices have cut. Now, why do I bring this up? In terms of what we argue about, like in the meme space, in the shitcoin space, it's like, oh, just get the bag where you can, and then we'll say things like crypto or like crypto coins, like those have a value. They're a store of value. Rolexes were in some parts of the world a cross-border medium of wealth transfer. So if you talk to like old military people, they'll tell you stuff about like back in the days, and like back in the days, I'm talking like 30, 40 years back, right? If you talk to people who were in Latin America, in like, let's say the last 15 years of how things have been going, in particular, like how certain things were working out during the whole COVID period. There were definitely people who were, taking Rolexes and going from one country like Argentina or Venezuela up into Colombia or up into Brazil. And that's how they were moving their capital out of their home country. But here you have it. And if this is actually correct, I don't know if any of y'all are actually into watches and stuff like that. But this is something that's like been a thing for a good long while. And if this is correct, we're talking like half the value of and I mean even like a base Rolex is still a 5-figure amount. And that's in euros. I just realized that. So there's a website called Watch Analysis, and apparently whoever this person is, they're into watches, and why will it not let me get to the next picture? All right, but assets wise, watches are considered by some folks one of those things that you would hold as a hard asset. Nib, like, not asking too much of your business. We're not trying to, watch your pockets or document the numbers or anything like that. But are you someone who is not just a crypto holder?
Oh, like as far as like trading, like I primarily just trade like in and out the markets. Not like I would say like I primarily focus on crypto. But like as far as like traditional assets and things of that nature, I have an account as well. Yeah. But
Okay.
as far as like watches and everything like that goes, I'm not a big flashy person. I mean, watches have their thing. Everybody got their thing, right? But definitely to what you're saying as far as watches go, I actually heard, like I was actually listening to a podcast earlier, and he mentioned that the most like the wealthy folks are starting to pull back a lot. Like, I mean, like the top 10% or so are like pulling back, like they're spending like a lot. And I think that came out in an article about like it was one of these banks, of course, that was like, I guess because they can see everything, right?
Right.
And they can measure where the money is flowing inside of the economy or whatnot. So but yeah, like they mentioned that like a lot of rich folks is like pulling back, and it's like you seeing it, like it's in the charts. Like, I mean, it's happening, yeah.
I'll be honest. I don't know how to tell what. I mean, granted, watches do look different as far as the design and the things that you can do with it. But as far as Rolexes, it's like, yeah, they look nice, but I couldn't tell you that much more out of that. But even just looking at the numbers, and granted, this is in the euro, but like 400 in 2022, I don't know what type of actual Rolex this is. Looks dope though. 400, what was that? 441,408 euros. That's 2022. It drops to 259,557 euros in 2025. Like, and if you look at how the crypto space has gone, we kind of did the same thing, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We and y'all know I'm not a price talk person. I don't tell y'all where to put money. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some guy on the internet, right? But how do I say this? Using Rolexes as a hard asset, as a medium of value storage and value like transfer. Again, this has been around for decades. We're talking like 30, 50 years back. Bitcoin is still only a teenager. Like
15, 16 years.
You see what I'm saying? So like, if that thing's messing up, quote messing up, what did y'all expect in the shitcoin space, in the meme space? Like, those things, of course too, we're going to have their drawbacks, their dips, this ain't even what it is anymore. Like, it doesn't have the same standing as a medium of storage of value or of exchange. Like,
to me, I mean, me personally, like when I'm hearing like, because if you have a Rolex, right, that's like a sign of wealth, right? Like you generate some money, right? Like you got
right.
like you make some money, right? So for someone to like start selling off like Rolexes and like it's cut by half, to me that sounds more so like, all right, I'm behind on some bills, like some major bills, and I need to like liquidate some things that I can get rid of fast, right? To pay that off. So to me, it sounds like from the top down, it sounds like everybody's pulling back. The rich folks in particular, right? Because when you think about it, if you have those that are like high net wealth individuals, right, that need to generate some type of capital right? They're going to sell things like watches, right? Or um, even in the
Sell that
stocks, right?
Lamborghini back, sell that
Exactly,
Ferrari
right.
back.
Right.
Yeah,
No, because I mean, you got a family to feed, right? You got things that you have to take care of. So it's easier to let go of those things. But like, like to me, like I look at that as like a sign of um, we in some shaky territory, right?
right,
As far as the markets goes, because like everything is correlated to a degree, right? So like what
right.
you're seeing over here, right, with the watches is correlating with like the crypto market and like the regular stock market. Like everything is in red right now, right? Um, to me, it's like just the signs of the times. I don't want to be like I don't want to like just like spread
Don't
FUD or
get
nothing
doom
like
and
that.
gloom.
But
I'm gonna get
right,
doom and gloom. Damn it, I'm gonna get doom and gloom right now. Because for some of the people that I've been paying attention to, they have been arguing that we have been in a recession like before Biden came in.
Mm,
So if this watch situation is an indicator of anything, because it is a more established market in comparison to the crypto space,
mm,
then like to the point, if the well-to-do people, the people who got like 3-4 Rolexes, or the people who do their like, because at first when I seen this post, I thought this was on Rally Road, which now makes me wonder, what do the prices look like on Rally Road for stuff?
mm,
That's one other thing. But so like it means that this has been dropping, you know what I'm saying, over time. But depending on what you pay attention to, watches, if you ain't into watches, that's not even on your radar as an
indeed,
indicator. You know what I'm saying? Like,
indeed, yeah,
but yeah, this is where we are right now. This is
indeed.
where we are right now.
And I will say, prior to this year, right, I worked for an established fine dining company, right. I was a server, right, for like 4 years or so, and I can definitely tell folks that like back in 2020, 2021. Everything was like moving, right? Like people were coming in. You had a lot of diners, right? People were like, like living high on the hog, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I started seeing because like I'm a numbers guy, like I watch everything. So I'm looking at the foot traffic. I'm looking at the numbers, like what we have like seasonally, right? As far as like certain times of the year, like fine dining, like a lot of folks come out around holiday season, right? Holiday parties, Christmas parties. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and that foot traffic had been dying down, like definitely 2023. Like I was like, all right, so this is very abnormal, right? To have like this amount of foot traffic because like usually like it's like we're popping, like like the whole week we're popping, right? However, going into like what 2025, so last year, 2024, um, that foot traffic went down considerably, y'all. Um, yeah, and it
Just
was
like,
yeah.
have you seen that? Oh, man, what was it on? It was on, was it Twitter? It might have been YouTube. I think it was YouTube. So the whole thing about how the spring break traffic is
Mm,
like zero near what it was in the height of C19. Like they
indeed.
literally showed a picture. So what was that, like 23? Yeah, I think it was like 23, and they showed us
Mm.
a picture of like what's that street? I forgot the street down there by the beach.
So I said what?
Tons of people packed out.
Yeah.
They show the same picture that's supposed to be of 2025. It ain't nobody on the street.
Mm,
The business is there, but it ain't nobody on the street. Now, because of who I've seen like post a picture, it's like, well, this should be a real picture, like a comparison of time and stuff. And this is like, well, damn, y'all complained about having all these people come down here. Y'all said y'all didn't want none of these, young folks and these particular groups of folks here. And now, with everything else going on, guess what? Young folks ain't here, or the folks who do this particular thing ain't here. And I don't even know what the numbers are like for what, like the increase of the foot traffic during the season, to your point, versus like what their regular traffic is. But I'm throwing this out to the bigger audience thing. Like, I don't know how many of y'all are paying attention to the way that the stories popping up more around people being more dependent on credit cards. And I've been saying this for how long about like the whole what's the thing called? So we used to call it layaway, right? And then we had credit cards, as far as like you can get to have the thing now, pay for it over time until later. Now they switched it to buy here, pay here, which now apparently DoorDash, I think it's DoorDash that brought up you can do that with them now. So like you can eat the food now, but you'll pay for it later.
Yeah. It's
wild.
Man, it is. But you know, I don't know if you like checked out any Ray Dalio's material or whatnot. But in the Change the World Order, like he talked about like how nations, you know, they rise and fall, and one of the stages that's like because it's 6 stages, right? Stage 1 is is typically after like some type of civil war or some type of conflict. Stage 2 is when like there's healthy growth going on inside the country, and the country's building itself up, right? 3 is like its peak, and then 4 is when it starts going on that tail end, where it's like it starts expanding, right? And the country involved, like the country gets overextended at a certain point and over leveraged. So, to what you're saying, this has happened like time and time again throughout history, and we're at this point now where it's like everybody's like taking out credit. Well, I would say like the large majority of folks are starting to like looking at factoring in credit to get by day to day. It's
it's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
I'm trying to. I said that wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, deferred payments is wild. Like,
so, all right. So again, like, I don't tell people like to take everything I say as gospel. Definitely cross-reference what comes out of my mouth. But it's more so about like, depending on who you're paying attention to, depending on you know, what the thing is, or like how you cross-reference it. Like, there are definitely signs that are telling us certain things. Yes, whether it be quote good or bad, you can still, you know, get a lick, grab a bag, save a little something on the side. But for how I'm looking at this stuff going on right now, are like these indicators, right? These trends, these patterns. It looks like we're on this path that is going to make more middle class folks poor, versus we're not going to make more rich people. We're not going to make more middle class people. We're going to make more lower or low income folks, or lower income. So what do they call it? The wealth gap is going to grow between the have and the have-nots, the rich and the poor thing. So it's going to be X amount of folks who will funnel and filter their way up, but it's going to be a whole bunch more folks who are going to funnel, filter, get pushed / nudged down. And case in point, this whole thing of like, let me start using more debt instruments to, you know, sustain
the lifestyle.
Right. Like, and you know, like, and I remember when it happened too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely had to like do some things to pay some bills when all of the Trump bucks and the Biden, bucks is going on. But like, I knew at the end of the day, it was like, nah, you still got to work out the situation of like crossing back over onto this W-2 side, land on your feet, and then start grinding to get things worked out to the next stage, right? And so like to see that there are people who are still like, well, I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna still live like X amount beyond. And again, for the folks that I pay attention to, the math is the math. Like, I'm not an economist, I'm not a rocket scientist, but these folks I'm paying attention to are definitely the more economic, proficient people as far as like crunching numbers. And the stuff that we did during the Biden administration and even during the first version of Trump, they weren't sustainable, and they were leading to, quote, bad economic habits. And so, like, here's where we are now. People got used to having X amount of capital access, even though they didn't actually earn that capital access. Like you get what I'm saying? Like, you work a job where you like make 50K, but you have access to capital that you can spend up to 70, 80K. Like, and we ran with it. Like, we ran with it, bruh. When I tell you the number of cars I seen people with, new whips.
Yeah.
Oh man, the number of people that bought a Tesla. What? Yeah. The number of people that was on plane trips going every which way. And I ain't even mad at the folks on the plane trip stuff. Because, like, those experiences are what they are. And, like, getting out and, like, seeing the rest of the world definitely does change your perspective when you come back home. And hopefully it motivates you enough to be like, all right, I did it once, I could do it again. Granted, I might not have that method of being able to financially do it again, but I could do it again, because now that I got out and I see what's up, it's like, I know better when I go back home now. At least that's my takeaway. Case in point, like when you told me you was going to Hong Kong, I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like, it's on the list, and I would like to get there. Like, I mean, granted, it's not like the place is just going to stop and freeze. But,
well, I mean, hopefully not, because I mean, the China, for all intents and purposes, I mean, controls Hong Kong. It's like they don't have as much autonomy as they used to have. But to what you're saying, yeah, it's not like you're not going to have access to Hong Kong like anytime soon, hopefully. But yeah.
Oh no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, as far as like, I would like to be able to see the then and now progress. So like, ideally, I would have got out there, 2020, right, or like 2017, and then you go back now and you're just like, okay, I see how the progression has happened. As far as like, how am I looking at the businesses, or how am I looking at like how many foreigners are there versus how many were there before? Like, those are the things that like I'd be looking to compare to. Or like, if I was more in the network, then it's just like, oh well, who's still around 2-3 years later versus when I first went. Like, it's like this within the crypto space thing. It's just like, well, how many people who were doing content during the height of C19 versus pre-C19, there's only a handful of folks who are still actually doing content around this crypto industry, and like the amount of people who are still like trying to give the talk outside of the financial regulatory stuff, because that's arguably where most people are. And within that, the audience attention only really works during market pumps and market highs. And that's like been the thing from back when. So personally, I never tried to, that's a lie. In the beginning, I was trying to like do it in that format. Like this is before I like caught up with, King and Zay and stuff. And then it was like, all right, the trading stuff don't work for me. The money talk stuff don't work for me. I need to do something else. So after much up and down, left and right, here's where we are now. It's just like, all right, I'll just make comments on stuff that like catch my attention. Screw all that price talk, money talk stuff. That's not where I'm at. I know this. And I know that it doesn't work for the bigger eyeballs, or not the bigger eyeballs, but the more eyeballs, and how the attention works in regards to the algos for like YouTube and stuff like that. But the point of where I was going was about, damn, I lost the thought. Yeah, sorry. The who's still around in whatever industries that you thought were interesting there, like community meetups or things like that. Like if you built that network there, it's like, well, who's still here? What are they doing? How have they changed their approach to being relevant within their community or within their industry, whether it be business or like social stuff, right? And yeah, so.
And to what you're saying, yeah, as far as like in regards to like I guess seeing Hong Kong before like 2020, 2021, right, and comparing it now, I talk with some folks out there, right, that's been living in there, like in Hong Kong for like 10 years or so, right, and they were saying that like a lot of folks packed up and left like around like 2019, 2020, when all that national security bill, the protests and all that was going on out there.
Foreigners or mainland Chinese folks?
Foreigners.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, foreigners. Yeah. A lot, and then like startups, like crypto startups, like they left, right? And things just started getting more restrictive in the region. And from my understanding, like a lot of those folks went over to Singapore and like Dubai because the regulations were a lot laxer. And that's how Singapore and like the UAE have kind of got that slight edge over Hong Kong now. But a lot of that stuff, like a lot of them are like they're trying to attract that capital back to Hong Kong, right? Because I would tell you, like they was very adamant about being like the financial hub of Asia. So, but
right, and again, I've said this before. Like I think as a sandbox, it's going to be interesting to see how Hong Kong works out, not just for the region, but just on the larger global landscape, because of what they're allowing to to play out in that sandbox. And like I said, like it's the one route you have to be able to move capital from mainland China in order to purchase gold and other precious metals in Hong Kong and like take it and go someplace. That's the only route you got. And then when you put in the other financial instruments, the fiats, the cryptos, and like right now, USTD is kicking butt as a stable coin out there. Ooh, Jesus. What's the other thing? Then you have like the ETF stuff that's going on. It's like a smorgasbord for financial instruments. And granted, the CCP thing is doing like the guided hand with it, but I don't know. I honestly think it's going to be, in comparison to other jurisdictions, Singapore, UAE stuff, I think they're still going to end up like they're going to get their. It's going to work to make their niche.
In the region.
In the region, it's going to work to make their niche, and largely like, how do I say that? Because to your point about the regulatory laxness that you have within like the UAE or Singapore, in my mind, X amount of that is just a lower barrier to entry. Hey, what's going on? Shalom. In order to get the dollars in, right? That's the growth hack mechanism. Hey, like we're not going to be in your pockets, or we're not going to be in your books like how the U.S. is, and we're not going to try to do you like how Japan would do you with the regulatory guidelines, and you could do this and this over here in the UAE, like literally. And then on the UAE, for how you pay your taxes, bro, I got 2-3 homies that's making they setup out there. It's a whole different animal.
Indeed.
And hey, what's going on, FN? And it works for folks who are trying to move in a different, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say economic bracket, but more so like in a different lifestyle thing. Because I know somebody who's traditional financial assets, and I know somebody else who's on the crypto side. And for everything I see on the outside, it looked like it's working out for them.
Yeah. A lot of that is like attributed, like what you're saying, like it's like they're attracting capital to like those regions. So they're gonna make it to where like capital isn't as restrictive in their jurisdiction. And again, like that's working on like the crypto side and the traditional side. You just brought up a point though. You were saying about Japan, and you mentioned Japan, but regardless, like the regulatory stuff over there, like as far as what I understand about Japan is like ridiculous as far as like their guidance when it comes to like crypto taxes and things of that nature, right? I think they get like hit like 50%. It's something insane to where like it's not even like feasible for them to like even like really trade, right? And like the Japanese and the Korean markets are primarily like retail, and because like the Asian market is like very fragmented, the cost to like, well, it's more expensive for the retail folks to jump into crypto in the Asian market.
Wait, for or like by country?
By country, because you got to remember, so you got to remember, like as like in the West, we think of Asia as like futuristic. They're like like they're just innovating, right? Which is the case, right? They are innovating, right? However, there's a lot of countries over there in Asia that are still primarily like cash based, and Cambodia, I think the Philippines, Vietnam, even Japan. Japan is very is heavily cash based, right? Even though they have like sophisticated a sophisticated financial system, right? It's still primarily like done in cash. So the means and the mechanisms in order to like get into the market is already restricted, like from just the how do I get my cash into said bank or institution to be able to send over like to buy on an exchange, for example, right? Like that mechanism is like very restricted because they have capital controls over there as well, right? They just don't let everybody.
Been talking about capital controls for years now, bro.
I know, and like it's crazy, right? Because like I'm over there, and like this is exactly what they're telling, like they're telling like the audience, right? Like at the conference or whatnot.
Side note,
yeah.
What was the name of the conference that you went to?
Oh, Consensus 2025 Hong Kong.
There you go. All right, I so didn't remember the name for the conference, and I've been wanting to get that out there. It was Consensus 2025. And it was done out there in Asia, like scale wise, bigger than the Miami one.
Oh, for sure. Like they sold out. It was packed. Yeah, it was packed. And 75%. Go ahead. Yeah, 75% of like they said about 75% of the everyone that was there was from overseas. Like it
Mm.
was a lot of folks from overseas, man. Like I'm telling, like all parts of the world. Like I met a cat from the Bermuda.
Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, like everywhere. Like there was like folks, coming into like Hong Kong because like they're seeing something in the region and like we got our eyes on this, right? Because they got some big stuff coming down the pipe, and to like what you were saying as far as like how Hong Kong is going to interact with China.
Mm.
Verbatim, they said Hong Kong is how do they say it? Hong Kong is China's sandbox. Like, I mean, like straight out. I swear, I'll put this on everything. They said like Hong Kong is China's sandbox, and like they were talking about like the Hong Kong dollar, the yuan, stable coins, how all this is going to work together in the region. I forget the name of the paper that they released like later on that day, but they're like they got 3 phases of it, and they're like trying to get public input on like how they should go about setting policy. But this is like a 5-year plan, and like they're not playing, y'all. Like they're putting stuff in place to become the region, like the regional player when it comes to like the crypto world, right? And just traditional finance, like period. Like they're
I'm
not
just
playing.
saying. I'm
They're not playing.
just saying.
And
Like,
it's like,
one. Sorry, real quick.
go ahead.
One.
Yeah.
Um. What is it? Like Hong Kong. I don't know if to say never not, but Hong Kong has been a part of China for a very, very long time. Definitely longer than I've been alive. And considering how they do their economic, financial, and economic, financial, governmental development plans, like that's not changed. And even there was a whole thing like what was it end of last year of how we were over here arguing about Hong Kong, and like Taiwan is another issue too. But what is it? 2 administrations back, we acknowledged that like Hong Kong was um, under China's jurisdiction, like that was a part of their stuff. And I think we did something similar to Taiwan. I don't remember all the details of that, but like I've been saying this sandbox thing for a while. If you've been following me on here, I've been saying this for a while. It's going to be the sandbox because they want to be able to control the entry and exit point if or when it becomes necessary. For right now, it's just like, hey, let's let these folks come in and like let's see what they do. And then we're just gonna study it. And then like in another 10 years, like so at 2030 is this phase of stuff right now. And then like you'll see by 2040, we'll have this stuff implemented. By 2050, it'll be like this. Like and they're just doing phases of these like 100-year plans. That's literally how they've been operating for like how long now. And they say this all the time.
Yeah.
Us over here in the States, over in the West, we our time horizons are very, very different. Time horizons are very different. Segue. I'm a segue.
All right.
Example of how our time horizons are so different, and like when we do stuff, X amount of the time it's on FOMO, and it's us like being quote late to the party. Case in point, Watcher Guru, one of the Twitter accounts I follow, apparently GameStop is like, hey, we're gonna buy Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. The stock for it goes up like 15% after announcing it. They didn't buy nothing yet. They just announced that they was gonna do it. Like, and then it makes me wonder, like, all right, so like when y'all do actually buy it, how are we, the folks on the outside, gonna verify that y'all actually bought Bitcoin and not some ETF derivative?
Exactly.
Like, because
some
then
rehypothecation of Bitcoin on the back ends.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so arguably, if this is a time of a sign of the times, like it's gonna be X amount of other companies jumping on the bandwagon, and like apparently Michael Saylor is now like, hey, to the guy who is the CEO for GameStop, welcome to the club. But it's like he's been saying this for how long? First, what do they call it? First mover advantage. So now GameStop jumped in on this. Fidelity also did something. King was talking about that. I think that was yesterday. He was talking about that. I think it was yesterday. King, I was talking to you earlier about it. King said something else that I'm gonna get into when I get to that post. But like, again, if this is a sign of the times, I imagine that over the next coming weeks and months, we're going to see more announcements of publicly traded companies announcing that they're going to jump into the space. I'm still on the how do we verify that they actually bought Bitcoin versus an ETF situation. And this isn't me on financial advice stuff. It's just one of those like, is the public being set up to get caught with the bag, holding the bag? Because again, bigger indicators show or are saying, hey, we're in a recession. So, and then at the end of the day, the stock market is not the real world economy. It is not Main Street economy, right? Wall Street is financialization stuff. It's number widgetry. It's derivatives. So if we see this whole pump thing going on up here, but like over on the actual Main Street like economy, inflation is kicking our butts. X amount of people is losing their jobs. Unemployment is like, I feel like we're not going to get like an official number about the double digit nature of unemployment until maybe like we're definitely going to be past the full first year of Trump's administration by the time they actually say something. But again, like these two things aren't. Here's the weird part about how like we as people, as like the world works, right? We can have both of these things exist in the same space and time. The truth of economies having this issue, inflation is kicking our butt, unemployment is definitely growing. But at the same time, there is, quote, prosperity in the financial markets. And like, this is good news that GameStop just went up 15%. And like, oh, that's a good thing. But is it though?
Yeah.
Like both of these things in the same world. The same.
It's I had a few thoughts on what you had said. Like you're saying, like the financialization of Bitcoin and said assets, right? During times of inflation, like asset prices tend to go up, right? Because like folks that like have the means and know how money moves put their money inside of like inflationary assets that like go up when there's more inflation like in the system, right? To me, how I'm seeing this is like, all right, we're just gonna like take Bitcoin for it, like for primarily like for this example, right? To me, I'm looking at Bitcoin and it's like, all right, you have these bigger players coming in and they're like buying Bitcoin, right? But Main Street, we're like we're dealing with more factors day to day than those that have the means right? Do. And to me, like how I'm seeing this is like mainstream isn't coming in and like buying up the asset. It's like it's being propped up by Wall Street at this point in time, right? Because it seems to me that it's like it's more institutional players coming in and creating the market to like sustain prices. But it's like it's how sustainable is that though, right?
Corporate
Uh,
grifters. Corporate grifters.
yeah, but
Like,
it's like yeah, but Michael Saylor is like trying to get all these big tech companies to like buying on Bitcoin. At one point, MicroStrategy or Strategy now, like they were like the biggest buyer of Bitcoin, like week in and week out. But
mm-hmm.
that trend started going down, right? And like they're not the biggest buyer anymore. And it's like, all right, the market might have been. I'm not gonna say like MicroStrategy was propping up the market, but like it's interesting to see that as soon as they stopped buying, Bitcoin started like its price started going down, right? Again, I don't want to like make this a whole price talk thing or whatnot, but
Mm-hmm.
that's it's like this is stuff that I see, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we seen it on the front end. We're not even seeing it on the back end. When you got like you can make those direct calls to some OTC desks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, it's funny. Shout outs to Dropout Girls. Definitely still loving those shorts on the YouTube side. Oh, let me make this quick announcement on for those of you who may be in the DMV area, aka DC, Maryland, Virginia. Shout outs to Clev Mesador. She worked in DC. She was a part of the Obama administration. I forget what her exact title was at the time, but nonetheless, she did this post about a event happening on Monday, January 31st. Again, scrolling through Twitter, happened to see it. I think in getting more female participation within the space, to me, it was relevant to share. So, celebrating women shaping the future of fintech and digital asset policy. Monday, March 31st, 6 p.m. to 7:30, the John Wilson Building, which is at 1350 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's it. So, celebrating Women's History Month with us at an exclusive event highlighting the trailblazing women shaping the future of fintech and digital asset policy. If you go on Twitter, let me see who it's DC government. I think they're the organizers behind it. So DC government, find them on Twitter. It's at DC government or at DC DISB. They're the ones hosting it. If you're interested, if you are in the DMV around, that time on Monday, this is an evening event. So hopefully you can make it, network, meet some people, shake some hands, get to know some folks within the DC community that are doing their things. It's definitely more, it's more female faces than you would think if you were just like on the outside looking in, especially on that, like the DC crowd or like within that particular community. Just throwing that out there for anybody who may be interested in that. Again, you can check it out on Twitter. I'm trying to think of DC Dibs, which is DISB, and it is the DC. What is it? On Twitter is DC Government. That's their handle. What is that? I'm up to District of Columbia. Okay, so it's probably somewhere on the mayor's page for the mayor's website for DC government. It's probably on their page somewhere. But nonetheless, just throwing that out there for folks who may be interested. All right, boom. Okay, so again, segueing into another thing that ended up happening, which was, and this is like in that whole here's where we are now, where companies that are the new fintech companies are doing things to be more bring more of a symbiosis relationship to like crypto related products and services, right? Shout outs to Crypto Blood. Haven't gotten to catch up with that man in a minute, but yo, shout outs to that man over there. So somebody posted how Robinhood is doing the $Hood, which I'm guessing is a token or something, and basically said launched a new feature that will let you get cash delivered to you instead of having to go to an ATM.
Wow.
Like, I don't know if this is a real post because there's no other comment under it aside from somebody tagged Crypto Blood in it, and I follow Crypto Blood. So I looked and seen it, and I was just like, wait, what? Like even just on the overhead of doing, like, there has to be a minimum amount. And even jumping before that, like before even running down that rabbit hole, Robinhood now, and this is not me endorsing Robinhood, but in full disclosure, I do have a Robinhood account. Granted, I don't really do much with it. I do have one, but I'm not endorsing it. I'm just talking about it because, again, this caught my attention. When Robinhood started doing the announcement and the promo for Robinhood Gold, which now basically means that they have changed or expanded their revenue model to where they now started doing a tier-based thing between the paid users and the free users. And so the Robinhood Gold is the paid user group. I haven't actually read any of the stuff that they send me on it. In my mind, something's about to go down with them that they decided to then get into this whole tier mechanism. Because before, it was more about like the high value folks who were paying for another type of service that they were doing, that different tax bracket, right? Compared to the pajama traders, the everyday average user folks that like really rushed in during the COVID period when we had like the whole Wall Street Daddy thing going on. And so now they're bringing the tiered system to the retail base market, which in my mind, it worries me. But this isn't me giving financial advice. This is just me saying, oh, y'all, like the company switched their, more so they've shifted and moved into a new phase of probably how the company has been planning to move into the 2030 period. And then this thing comes out about them being able to, or looking to do this cash delivery thing. There has to be a minimum amount. Like, we're not just gonna come out to give you $300, dog. Like, no.
I think Tether is like 100,000 just for like redemption. It's something around there.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's like 100,000. Like you gotta have some bread. Like,
yo, I'm done. Okay,
but if I'm not mistaken, and please do your due diligence on this. If I'm not mistaken, I think Robinhood either is owned by Goldman Sachs or they're like a subsidiary under Goldman Sachs. And some wait, like I do your due diligence. But if I'm not mistaken, like in the app, it says it. Like, well, I haven't used Robinhood in like since like 2020 or around that time or whatnot. Like I dropped them like after like the whole GameStop fiasco thing, right? But yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe like they're underneath the Goldman Sachs umbrella.
So I opened up the thread just to see why somebody has a picture of a guy standing next to like a little coupe joint, like a the car don't matter, but it has Robinhood logo stuff on the side, and like he's getting handed cash and he's outside the strip club. Yo, the internet, man, like
Undefeated.
undefeated, dog, undefeated. Like that was just a setup right there. That you set it up for someone to make this get like for sure. Yeah, like, and then somebody else made the same point. Everything is cashless these days. Don't know what market they're addressing here, and I wonder the same thing. What like.
Who knows?
In my mind, here's the part that gets me. So what you mentioned about the GameStop situation, like I feel like a lot of folks forgot that what's his name, Valdick? Is it Valdick that's the CEO? I don't know if he's still the CEO, but I might be saying his name wrong too. But I swear it begins with a V. I remember when he went on the apology circuit to well, we had to do this, and then he was literally, I forgot whose interview it was. It might have been Lex Freeman's interview, or it might have been somebody else. He literally said we had to put breakers in because that's how the system works. Like we made the system work like this because of how the policy guidelines work for us. Because they're on their back end is Citadel. And I forget who is the head person behind Citadel, but Citadel's their bank. Like it's a whole funny thing about how the money comes in, and then like there's a front trading thing that happens on the back end from the end user, and then who's their dark pool on the back end, and I believe it's Citadel. So he goes on this whole tour and he's explaining like, yeah, this happened and we had to. He says it a whole nother way, but the takeaway of it is we couldn't let the user beat the house. So we had to stop all the what was it? I think it was the sales that they stopped. They stopped one side of the trade.
They were basically like they were doing a short squeeze. Well, like the hedge funds, like there was like the hedge funds.
So that was the
like,
Wall Street side.
Yeah,
that
like
was the Wall Street bets.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, what Robinhood did was they hit the off switch on the accounts that were looking to take advantage of the short squeeze.
Exactly.
And he went and explained this out in the public, but he was doing it in another way. And I'm like, but the takeaway is the system is literally rigged for them to be able to stop you from taking advantage of these types of unintended financial moments. And it blew my mind, like how many people still like talked about Robinhood like it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's like, but they literally just did what they did.
Yeah.
And then he went and told you, like, no, we set the system up so that you can't win in that manner. Like, and we can do it again if something else pops up. And we're not going to be held accountable for it as far as like, oh, you're doing something wrong as a company. It's like, no, we're not. We terms and services, we tell you this up front. We just never thought that there'd be a situation where the end user would not correlate, would work together to get us like this. And that's what happened. I said, oh. And I remember I was in some comment and I literally said like something like he's literally telling you that the game is rigged against you as the end user. And man, when I tell you the people went in on the comments against me, was like, well, no, this is the like he's trying to say that he's trying to make sure the business works right. And he's trying to say it's like no, he literally just said X, Y, and Z. It's rigged against you. But
you can't wake them up, man. Like they sipping the Kool-Aid. It's like, I mean, if they want to get, I mean, if they want to get fleeced, I mean, that's their, that's their business. But it's like you can't make this stuff up. It's like you looking at it and they telling you exactly what they're doing, and it's like if you continue to like go with their services, that I mean, at that point it's on you. So But
Yeah. Somebody said, why would you need cash unless you're buying drugs? Don't do drugs. Say no to drugs.
oh gosh,
Listen, like, but okay, and then here's the other part of it. Like, I don't know if the dollar sign hood is their ticker, or if that's the coin thing that they're pushing. But it's just like, we got short-term memory. We got goldfish memory, y'all. Like, it's just like, yo, they did this. Now they're telling you to pay for the service, and then you'll get like it's some other financial wizardry stuff that they talk about. Oh, you can make an extra like 10% on something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, well, we'll deliver you cash. What? You got to be charging a fee on that, and there has to be a minimum.
Yeah.
And then there has to be like location restrictions.
Yeah.
Like,
like no. Yeah.
I don't know. Again, this is not financial advice. As we just do your due diligence. If this is a real thing, like, do your financial due diligence, because when they hit the switch, it's literally just like how the GameStop situation. Hey, all of a sudden nobody can't do nothing. Your app don't work the way it's supposed to. The Twitter account ain't gonna say nothing on it. Like, and everybody's gonna be like, hey, what's going on? Oh God, Reddit is gonna be going crazy. Twitter's gonna be dragging them, and then you just like, well, I guess we back here again. We got turned off, and you can't do nothing about it.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, I'm definitely, if this is a thing, like, I am really curious on how this is going to play out during this administration.
Right.
Like, again, if the larger economy is like, hey, don't want to say it, but like, recession is a thing. Don't want to say it, but like, unemployment numbers is growing. Don't want to say it, but inflation is kicking people's butts. Like, don't want to say it, but like, more people are using credit cards and they're defaulting. And then you offer this stuff, and then you making people pay for a financial service that is rigged to work against them?
Crazy.
Bruh. The setup is crazy. The setup is crazy. All right, what was the other joint? All right, I did that one. All right, so before I jump into this, which one was it? It was Blue Blockchain. Yeah. What the fuck? Okay. No. Anyway, all right. So give us a little bit more on your experience with doing the whole Hong Kong thing. Like, whichever part you feel like sharing. And if I have a specific question, I'll throw it in there.
I got you. Yeah. So as far as like day to day, like on the island and everything like that, like, okay, so like so Hong Kong is like its own like region, right? You have parts of it that's like connected to the mainland, and then like it's like there's a few islands that's a part of it as well, but like there's Hong Kong Island, and then like there's like the mainland part that's connected to the mainland, and then some other outlying islands or whatnot. But I was primarily like on Hong Kong Island, like that's where like all the business folks and everybody are, right? And that's where the conference was held as well. Just being there and not like this again, like this is like my first international flight, right? So first time out the country, I'm just walking around. I'm not getting like stares or anything like that, but it's like, it is like, this he ain't really from here, right? But like it's good though, because it's not like they're like it wasn't like a standoffish thing or anything like that. It's just like, you just stand out or whatnot, right? But just day to day and just going through the island and seeing what I saw as far as like the money exchanges, like on the island, how prevalent they were, like across the island, was like mind blowing to me, because it's like, okay, like you
break that joint down, because when you said it to me, I was like, wait, what? Break that joint down about the money exchanges.
Yeah, so like the money exchanges, like, so like if you go to like an airport or anything like that, right? You you can exchange like your foreign currency for like the domestic currency. So like if you're flying in from like the US to the UK, you can exchange your dollars for the pound there at the airport, right? Input whatever country you want, right? That's typically how it goes. But like they're on Hong Kong, right? Like, yo, they had like this screen with like 20 different currencies, and like you could buy like you could go between those currencies if you wanted to. And it's like it's not like those currencies are like free floating on the island. However, you could purchase like said currencies or whatnot and do what you do, right? So you could go from the dollar into the Hong Kong dollar, right? And buy like Singapore dollars or Swiss francs, euros, whatever, right? Like it's how they
So
have it set up is how they got it set up. But yeah,
let me put some context on it for some of the folks who, if you ever dealt with like the Dixie stuff or like in the dollar trading and not when I say the fiat trading stuff, this would be where you do like arbitrage. This is the fiat arbitrage. So basic idea is um, the USD has a higher purchasing power because you get more yuan or you get more francos or you get more of the whatever the other fiat thing is for the currency you're going from. So let's say you got $100 in USD and you're like, all right, I'm gonna do some shopping while I'm here, and you transfer into the local Hong Kong fiat, which then puts you at like 110, 115. The other thing to put into this account, the context is the cost of living is lower in that region in comparison to what it is back home in the West. If you are in a Germany, if you're in a UK, if you're in the US, if you're Canada, but USD wise, America wise, our cost of living is higher than if you were there. But if you go to like the Emirates or something, it's a different ball game. Our
different
cost
ball
of
game.
living is lower in comparison to. So if you got that UAE money and you go someplace out in Asia, like the Far East side of it, your purchasing power when you convert into that local fiat is going to be more because you'll get quote more currency for what you exchanged into. And this is like the arbitrage game that folks would play um, in that type of market, that type of region, where you have, again, it's a financial sandbox. Like I'm just saying, like another validation of something I was saying like 2-3 years now.
For real. And like to take it a step further, like those same like type of like money exchangers, they had like crypto like OTC desks. So like how we're like used to over here, like we go like say we want to buy crypto on a centralized exchange, right? Like they don't have that over there. Like they probably do, but it's like it's more prevalent to like just go in and like go into a shop, right? And you can buy your crypto right there with like Hong Kong dollars or like USD or whatever, right? But those same like not the same businesses, but like they had like different money exchangers that took crypto and you could like trade into like whatever currency that they had available. So like the Singapore dollar, Russian rubles, all that. And it's like the threshold for that was like 150 Hong Kong dollars or something like that, which is like equivalent to about like I want to say it was like around like 15,000 USD or something like that. But you know, it's like you do what you do with that, right? But like again, like you could, you know, you can move in that like in that arena, so to speak.
Two things I want to point out to y'all. One, so what he's saying is think of crypto ATMs and how we have them here in the US, but put them as a storefront, not just a machine in the corner over there at the gas station. It's the storefront. This is what they do. They convert currencies, whether it's traditional fiat currency or cryptocurrency. And it's like 7-Elevens. It's everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
That's one thing. The other part of it is this. If you're able to get the crypto or the fiat how much, how do I say this? How much money or how much money velocity, bet. The money velocity for the financial activity within that region is calculated based on like what they see going on with the stores as far as like the hard asset of it, and then what they see going on the digital side. But if you're able to get the fiat and like the quote cash in hand, I imagine there's a gray market area where they don't even know what the financial activity level is, because once I go into the storefront, swap out my rubles for whatever other fiat, and then go to wherever I'm going for whatever product, service, or asset that I'm gonna end up getting, how do you track that? All you know is someone came in and took out like 5,000, rubles or 5,000 dong or whatever, and then they went and they spent it someplace. But you don't know specifically what place they spent it at. All you know is you will see that wherever that product or service was provided from, they're going to show that, hey, like we made a sale. But you don't know that it was that person. Right. You see what I'm saying? Like that level, like don't get it twisted. Like there's definitely AML KYC stuff happening in Hong Kong. Like don't get that part twisted. But there's also a gray area if you're able to still, for as digital as they are, if you're still able to operate in the currency in hand, that means there's a gray market area somewhere. Then on the crypto side of it, did you talk to anybody about mixers? Because I'm curious on the end of like how all right, whatever crypto I give you, you can pretty much, I mean, you can find a mixer for damn near anything. And then the other part of, I can just go to somebody and be like, hey, I got, 10,000 Solanas. It's on this wallet address right here. You can verify it. You got how many tethered? The point is, like, there has to be a gray market, and where people are doing trades that aren't following the strictness of KYC. Case in point, I remember this is years ago too. I forgot the dude's name who brought this up, but this is like 2017, 2018, I think. But he might have brought it up in a presentation he did like in 2016 or something. And the point was like, what is the largest trading platform? And this is like before we really got to where we got to with the whole CEXes, like centralized exchanges and stuff. And I remember at the time, like everyone would call out like, oh, it's like Kraken, or like it's early days of Binance, or the Coinbase, and it was like, nah, WhatsApp. No, Telegram. Because there's a whole thing that if you in the right group, like you could definitely make moves and flips in Telegram. This ain't me telling nobody financial advice or how to skirt this, that, and the third. And as I've been saying for a good hot minute now, if you're in an American jurisdiction, cross your T's and dot your I's. And this episode is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. He is my CPA. I'm not telling you what to do, like you got to go use him. But I'm just saying, if you're in this jurisdiction, cross your T's and dot your I's, because you just don't know how these administrations are going to go, which is a segue into another story about the SEC and something that King brought up yesterday with the SEC and Immutable. And that'll be the last thing, and then we can like get into some other stuff, whatever. But I just wanted to put some context on it, what he was talking about with those exchanges, in that it's an indicator in my book for how I look at things, that means that there's a gray market for both the crypto and the fiat side. Because if you're able to get that currency in hand, it's just like how the USD is. It's one of the most anonymous like any fiat that you get in hand is anonymous in comparison to crypto stuff, especially if you don't like if you got yourself through like a KYC based exchange. It's definitely more anonymous than the crypto side, but to me, indicator of there's a gray market somewhere out there, and I'd be so curious if somebody was actually, I know who to reach out to. Oh, I know who to reach out to. I got somebody that I wish I would have thought to put you onto them before, and now I wonder if they had went to the conference too. But I
It's
gotta
all
reach
good.
out to that person.
Yeah. But to what you were saying though, as far as like KYC, like so up into that threshold of like $150,000, like Hong Kong or whatever, like it was like minimum KYC. So like they just basically like check your passport just to make sure it's like you're who you say you are, right?
Right.
It's not like they scan like your details or anything like that. For what the shop got, well, the shop owner was telling me, right? That's what I gathered. The other guys, they were kind of like they didn't really speak English too well, so I couldn't really like ask those questions. But the one OTC counter that I went to, he dove into it a little bit. He told me like, yeah, that's pretty much like our protocol, so to speak.
Let that sink in though. Hey, you want to do like over 5,000 USD? Okay, let's say 2,000, 1,000 USD into whatever other thing you're going into, crypto or fiat. Just show me your passport. Oh, all right, that's you, Google. Boom. It didn't get scanned. It wasn't like, well, let me get another piece of ID in addition to. Like, listen. Again, it's a sandbox, and they're gonna run rings around the West. I just see it in my opinion. In my opinion. All right, so let's jump into this last joint real quick. No, that wasn't it. So shout outs to King. King called on this one. So he was talking about, what was this story yesterday? The SEC drops the case against Immutable, right? And so today I see a bunch of posts on Wu Blockchain, which is one of the other accounts that I've been following for a number of years now. I honestly feel like their posts have gotten better as far as like more informative stuff compared to like when I first started following them. They was definitely more heavy on the price talk, where now I feel like the information they provide, at least to me, is more relevant stuff that like, oh, okay, that's a heads up, or oh, like that's something to remember, or oh yeah, I remember when they like it cross references to something else that I might have been tracking, right? So there's a couple of posts, like let's say 3 back to back. Oh, okay. But so this first one is like, according to Fox reporter Ellen Terrett, the U.S. SEC has officially closed the investigation into Crypto.com with no enforcement action taken. The company had received a Wells notice in October of 2024 and withdrew its lawsuit against the SEC in December of 2024. So is that open? No. And then there's another post like right under that. Around the same time, the U.S. SEC has formally announced the dismissal of litigation against Kraken, Consensus, Cumberland, and issued related releases. Then there's another post that is pretty much going down the whole thing. So the point that King had made yesterday was, more than likely, the SEC just was on some, hey, we dropping these investigations against you. But when we do it, like, you can't turn around and sue us. He was covering Immutable yesterday. This came out like earlier today. And it literally says they got the notice in October and then they dropped the case against the SEC in December, which kind of gives X amount more validity to what King was saying on the exchanges are playing the game as far as like, all right, we'll go along. Like, we're not going to either continue to sue or we're not going to bring a charge to sue. Which then goes into the other point that he was making. about how this administration may be on the like, hey, we're just going to back away from everybody. But what happens in the next administration? What happens in administration two administrations down the road? They turn back up again. And I've been saying this for like, I was saying this when the SEC went after Reggie. They were sniping the companies individually. And if the industry would have gotten together as a collective and like countersued or like did some like, hey, let's do Freedom of Information Acts as far as like the communications between the SEC and the Congress folks and the different hearings that were going on, or the SEC and certain exchange players or traditional financial companies, and then start putting that out in public. In my mind, the fight would have ended up very different. Like the way the landscape looks now, I don't think it would look like it looks now, because the government would have been caught on the like, oh, y'all are playing dirty. There's a collusion going on between the Congress, between the governing agencies / departments, and the traditional financial institutions. In my mind, where the crypto industry messed up, and granted, some folks, what's going on, Larry? And some folks would say, hey, but look at the companies that you have in the space. X amount of these companies are back end funded by traditional Wall Street folks, traditional financial folks. So that would kind of be on the biting the hand that feeds you, right? Circle is definitely one of those. And what is Circle? USDC?
Circle, yep, USDC.
Right. Tether's been pro KYC, traditional government friendly from day one.
More or less.
Chain Analysis has been pro Big Brother from the break, right? So like, but then you have like Consensus, you have the wallet Consensus, you have MetaMask, like MetaMask has been, what's that? MetaMask is like, I think JP Morgan is one of the big holders on the back end. It's JP Morgan or somebody else.
I want to say, was it JP Morgan or was it BlackRock?
It wasn't BlackRock. It wasn't BlackRock. It was like JP Morgan or somebody. Yeah. And then you got like 16Z is like, they did the spread on a number of the early companies. But nonetheless, like, I still like feel that if the industry, or at least enough of the people in the beginning, wanted to like
pull together,
not pull together, but on some pull together, yeah. And granted, this is me on the outside. I'm an outsider. I'm a dude on the internet talking crap years later, right? But in looking at the exchanges and in looking at how many people in the beginning were like, just their lives got turned upside down, and in the way that like local law enforcement went after them, federal law enforcement went after them, prosecutors who were out here trying to make careers for themselves went after them. Like, I don't know what to say if people would have had the foresight, but if there was maybe more of a concerted effort back then, when they like to protect the onesie twosie people, the Charlie Shrims, and there's a couple other folks that I cannot remember their name right now, but these were like the individual folks back in the day who was out here doing stuff on the individual level. And then when you have like the companies actually start coming into the space to be like, let's actually like pull together to to actually fight the government. Now, granted, Reggie was saying from back then, and Reggie says it now, like, oh, you don't ever want to fight the government because they have deep pockets and long memories, which is true. But at the same time, look at where we are, because there wasn't a collective unity of, all right, we're gonna band together. Like I have a whole thing on like how I look at Reggie's situation and how everyone still leaves him out on stuff right now.
Very much so.
You know, but I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
No.
rambling on.
No, but what you're saying though, like I had a few things kind of like going through my mind as far as like how the lawfare was going on like the past like what 6-7 years or so.
Some of them.
Yeah, right. To me, I look at this like, all right. I try to look at like the bigger thing, and like I guess like certain things make my antennas, go up or whatnot. But to me, it's like they're trying to find a way to like corral the crypto market, right? So at the beginning, right, there was like you had the ICO boom or whatnot, and that's when like around that time, I guess like Gary Gensler, it's like was it like 2018, 2019? He got like put into the SEC, and he went on his whole tirade, right? You look at the market as if like it was a child, and like the SEC was like the parent. Like if you grew up with a strict parent, right? Like they telling you can't do this, you can't do that, right? After a while, like you're like tired of hearing like I can't do this and can't do that. Like the kids that had like the strictest parents, like once they got out the house or whatnot, they turned up. Right. So to me, how I'm looking at this is like, all right, Gary Gensler's out, and like everybody's been kind of like on this wave of like, all right, we're gonna get like some regulation, but at least like we're not gonna like it's not gonna be as restrictive, right? It's like they're trying to deregulate everything. So who knows what's gonna come down the pipe, right? And to what you're saying about like I guess like in a few administrations, depending on how things go during like the next few years, how hard are they gonna come back on the whole market itself? You following me? Because like if you let the market just run, right, and the market does what it does, case in point, I think about like the housing market, like back in like the financial bubble, right, back in 2008 or whatnot. Like a lot of that stuff was like deregulated, right? Well, it came on the backs of deregulation, right? And then like the market just did what it did. Well, if you fast forward now and see like what's going on now, it's kind of like history's kind of repeating itself in a sense, right?
We are creatures of habit, as they say. There's nothing new under the sun.
Exactly.
And I was just listening to something the other day, it was like yesterday, and they were talking about like the new stuff that Trump is about to do for the housing market. It will lower the prices to make more like available stuff as far as people being able to purchase. But it's like, so how is that supposed to work? More people are going to lose their job, and they're going to try to turn to credit, but the interest rates are still going to be kind of wonky, but the prices are going to be lower. So how does that work that you have more, there'll be lower prices, but people won't have the financial resource to get the house, which means more than likely it'll get swept up by conglomerate companies. And then
put you in debt, and then like I mean you lose asset, and like they got it on their books. It's like they're playing the long picture, right? And it's like I wish like folks would like kind of see what's going on, right? And it's like it's no different with the crypto market. It's like, to me, and how I see things, it's like people, they call me conspiracy theorists, what have you. It is what it is. It's like, hey,
Crypto used to say, real quick, conspiracy theories, give it time, they will become conspiracy facts. And there'd be a number of things that like happen here in the States that, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, you're a conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. And then give it some time. And eventually, like, the government tells on itself, or the person who did the thing tell on themselves, and you're like, see, it was a fact then.
Gaslighting. But it's like
gaslighting me, like I was making it up and I didn't know what I was talking about, but lo and behold, you told on yourself.
Yeah, and then folks don't care like once it comes out or whatnot. So it's like,
Goldfish brains, man.
right, man.
Goldfish
But
brains.
like again, like in a few years or so, like because we have like all these like CBDC developments coming around the world or whatnot, and like how that's being pushed. It's like, is this being controlled so that like there's a controlled demolition of like the crypto market, so that like you can usher in something like that? It's like, because like you deregulate the market, and it's like you let the market do what it do, knowing that people are going to be people and things are going to get like over leveraged.
Okay. Then I got a question for you on this then. So does that mean that we have free markets, or do we not have free markets?
I think that like to a degree, like as far as like it's not, the free market isn't what it used to be like in the traditional sense, where it's like you just allow, because all right, back in the day, if you started a company, right, and that company met the goods and services, like had like services or whatnot that they provided to the community, the community rewarded you in the fact of like buying your goods or service, because like that's them saying like, we like what your product or service, and we want you to give us more of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if you have that same, like you've had another business with the same business idea or whatnot that sprouted up, and they funded it, they went on, like they went live, and nobody bought from them, right? They basically go bankrupt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the free market saying, we don't like what you're serving, we don't like your product or service,
Right.
we want to go with someone.
Price discovery.
Right.
That's natural price discovery.
Right. Now we take what the markets are now. Everything is like a bailout now. Like it's like, if you're too big to fail, it's like they're gonna come in and scoop you up so that like this company or whoever doesn't go out of business. So it's not really in the traditional sense the free market. Price discovery still happens, but it's in a controlled environment, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes. Again, we're not out here giving financial advice. We just two guys talking on the internet. That's it. Because he said the thing he was saying, that it just made me don't want to throw that question out there. But I'm gonna go back to the thing that King said. Like, I think that I definitely would encourage, even though folks probably made agreements, let's say agreements, to they will not turn around and sue the SEC for what they were doing during this last the last two administrations, last three administrations, in this level of prosecution and stuff. But to something else, and I said this the other day, like, I think that the way that the prosecution with Biden's Operation Choke Point in particular ramp things up was, we need to step up getting more of the traditional Wall Street financial type folks into the crypto space, and the folks who are on that liberal financial sovereignty stuff, like, we need to make them the minority. And I said this on Monday, if you look at who's sitting in companies, in the exchange companies now, and like other adjacent um, industries to this space, there's a lot more traditional financial folks in the space now than there was 10 years ago, than there was before COVID, during COVID, back in the infancy days of Bitcoin. There are more traditional financial folks now. And then the other irony of it is, there are less places for you to spend crypto now than there was back in 2013 and 14. I promise you, if you was around then, you know what I'm talking about. There was a shit ton of companies, and there was like websites that literally would list like all types of mom and pop places, and then like Newegg and other like bigger name vendors and stuff. And now the number is nowhere near what it was back then.
in terms of,
Grant,
at least in terms of Bitcoin and like some other, you know, coins and stuff like that. But yeah,
yeah,
to what you're saying is, yeah, you're right.
you know,
Just what was that?
like I said the
Go
other day,
ahead, go ahead.
folks like me is we grandpas, granddads, and unks because we've been around too long, and so like remembering and experiencing that back in the day stuff to what it is now is just like, like
Far.
I'm okay. Like what this place is gonna look like after 2030, I can't even begin to imagine.
Yo,
Yeah. Oh, there was a book I had wanted to tell you about the other day, bro. It's called the Sovereign Individual.
Yo, I'm like on no. Like actually, when we met, you mentioned that book, and I think I got up to about chapter 16. Oh no, not chapter 16. It was like, I think it was like chapter 11 or 12 or something like that. But I've gone through it, a good chunk of it. I need to go back and revisit it. But nah, like what they were hitting on in there is
right. Now, granted, it isn't like 100% match. But like they said some things where you just like, yo, like
right,
the global citizen is the digital nomad. And so I think the book is the 90s.
It was 90s? Like made in like 90. I think they released the book in 98 or 99, something like that.
So like there are certain terms that they use in the book that when you look at the modern, like where we are in this present day time, 20 plus years later, this is like, oh, well, the what is it? The international citizen is the digital nomad. The way that they saw China and Russia, like Russia wasn't as much into it, but the way that they saw China, with how they didn't see China the way it is now, as far as how they're a dualism of the governing system and their economic system. They didn't catch that part, but they knew like China's going to be something down the road, but they didn't catch that part. Listen. But Newegg is still a site though. It still sells all like techie stuff. I'm just saying. It's still here. They still do what they do. I don't know if their numbers are bigger or as like, you know, Best Buy or like Micro Center or whatever. But like we've been around for a minute. We got some season on us, right? In revolutions around the sun and stuff. Okay, it's not a bad thing.
At least it wasn't like Comp USA or like I mean, like if you know about that, you've been around.
Oh man, you know, stop it! Stop! Oh, you're killing me. But yeah, like they hit some other things about people's thought on like getting other citizenships. Talking about like passports, and like definitely didn't have passport bros as a concept in the book, but passport bros was and is a thing now, right? The way that they were looking at the U.S. as far as still being the hegemony in the geopolitical scene, they didn't have that down, but they saw that like there would be some changes on the geopolitical landscape, and technically right now the U.S. citizenship, as far as like getting that U.S. visa thing, it is not in the top 3 anymore. Like we down there closer to 10.
Even the top. Nah, I think we fell out the top 10. I think we like number 12, like 14 or it's something like that. Like we're in the top 20, but we're not in the top 15.
I know we're not in the top 5. That much I know.
Yeah.
And I literally got into a debate about this with 2 of my coworkers, and there was just like one guy, I know he was trolling me because he just be saying stuff to say stuff at times, and then the other one, it was just like, but I'm literally telling y'all, like, I've actually gone through the process and I've actually traveled outside the country in multiple places that y'all have not. But I don't know what I'm talking about. But whatever. All right.
They gonna argue you down, man. They gonna argue you down.
Listen, and some days I had to be catching myself because I know my one coworker, like, he just be trolling and he be on his like America, and I'm like, bruh,
come on, dog.
Stop. that's not like it might be in your thing, but like when you get beyond your outlook and your operational environment, like not everybody's on the same value metric as you. But nonetheless, yeah, it is interesting just to see where things are now within the space. Interesting to see how other regions are like doing what they do to develop the financial side world. What's up?
No, like you had just brought up a point, because in the book they talked about jurisdictional arbitrage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like how your wealth and everything would like the citizens, right? Like the international citizens or whatnot would be able to like choose like what's going to be best for them, right? And like the sovereigns are going to like cater to like what they like cater to them, basically, like to attract them to their countries.
Yeah. And if you have looked into the whole thing about getting another citizenship or a residency, or just being able to set up some kind of business or whatever in other countries, like the landscape is rich out there. I forgot dude's name. Digital nomad. What's his name? Ben something. Hold on.
You talking about? Hold on. You talking about? I know you're talking about. He was actually at the conference
Capital.
too.
Nomad Capital.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was at the conference
really?
too. Yeah. I missed his presentation. He was like they put him on a smaller stage too, man. I don't think that was right. But like, anywho though, like he was there though.
But he only talking to like 6-figure plus people anyway, so everybody's not his audience.
This is true. But like I think that like I don't know, like it was definitely he should have been like on a different stage, because like he was like, if you were there, like he was like on like the smaller stage where like not a lot of people like went to like on that side anyway, right? There was like I think it was like 4 or 5 stages, and like all the other stages was like bigger, way bigger. Like everybody was like, that's where like 80 to 85% of the traffic was. But
which then makes me wonder, as far as for him, because like he's mentioned crypto stuff here and there, but it's never been like the hard hit part of his presentation. So that makes me wonder, was he trying to expand his audience base or market, as far as like, all right, this is a new segment of the market that is growing and developing the new set of millionaire folks, right? So let me put my name over here, or let me put some presence over here, so that these folks who are going to grow into that new tax bracket eventually are going to need my services,
right?
And he's been like over 10 years at it now. Like he gave his citizenship up like a while ago.
Yeah.
So
2017, something like that. It might have been before then, really.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But he talked about crypto and like some of his videos or whatnot, and like how some of the early Bitcoiners, and I mean just whoever, right, like the crypto millionaires or whatnot, like go to him to like not avoid taxes or anything like that, but like to make sure that like when they do exit the system, that they're not like they're able to keep this basically.
That's basically it. We try to do the arbitrage of where do I get to pay the lowest amount legally, because he's 100% about doing things by the book.
Oh yeah, about 110. But yeah.
So yeah, man. Is there anything else you want to share about the conference, or just your experience while you was at Hong Kong?
As far as like just what they were just pushing out, I mean, I pretty much said everything that really needed to be said, like the gut, like the main chunks of it, right? Their Hong Kong is situating itself to be like the major financial hub of Asia. That's how they said it. That's what they mean. And verbatim, like you were saying, like for a while now, right? like how Hong Kong sits inside of like China, like is China's well, yeah, Hong Kong is China's sandbox, right? And how things are going to operate in there, and like just being on the ground and just seeing it, and just seeing like how like I mean you have like I mean it's on like the trolleys, like crypto, like I mean like they're really advertising this thing like as far as like Hong Kong being like that hub. So um time is gonna tell, man. But like I definitely see some opportunities there in the region. I'm ready to book my next trip. Like
See,
it's
and all right, so when he told me about this trip, and that's what I was saying, I was like, bro, like ask every which question that you can, try to figure out the different circles. Because my thing was, all right, how do we work that out as those of us back here in the States who's the regular average Joe person? Yes, there's the stuff of going on exchanges, but you know, consider how things are going right now. Like, heaven knows, like what stuff will come out of this administration, let alone the administration after this administration, right?
exactly.
As far as like barring Americans from interacting with certain overseas entities or financial institutions, or you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those like, how does this work out for us over here, or like how do we tap in aside from actually going to the place and
Right.
you know spending that $1,000+ plane ticket? Like, how do we get to tapping over here? And that's the part that I'm like really itching to figure out.
Exactly. And I asked that question, and like they gave outlines, but they was shut mouth on like the details. Like they told you what they're trying to do, but they would not give you any details as to how things are going to work in like that in the jurisdiction, right? They was like real tight-lipped about that. Like, I mean, yeah,
Like I
very
said,
minimum details, yeah. But
I got somebody I need to reach out to
for sure.
ask some questions, and I so wish I would have thought of this person beforehand. So I got to be like, yo, connect with this person. But thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming on. Damn, we did like 2 hours, bro.
It's all good, man. Like I
Yes.
thank you for having me on. Like it was it was a great experience, right? And got to see a different perspective than what's going on over here in the West. That's what I really went there for, is to see that Eastern perspective and to see how they're doing things over there. And if there's any way that we can like again like tap in over there on their side as things develop, and be like the early adopters, so to speak, right? As things get pushed out. So yeah.
If anybody out in Hong Kong sees this, reach out to your boy. I'm really trying to figure some ways to get over there. Dead ass. And other than that, y'all, like I said, you know, this was a pop-up because I wanted to have Nib come on and like get into it as far as his experience out there, and just like have somebody that's not in the, oh, I'm a VP of this company. Like, no, like here's a real person that I know. And they went all the way over there, and they came back and they got like valid on ground, like, yeah, this is what I've seen, this is what I experienced, and it's not the way that we get it told back here.
Even how the Chinese saw like the Russians, because I saw a news article over there, like in paper. They're handing out newspapers, by the way, y'all. Like I mean, like on the streets, like it's a big thing over there. They pass out newspapers, but like on the front page, do I actually have it? Let me see if I actually. Well, it's somewhere over here. But basically, like when we struck that deal, well, like I guess we're still in the talks with like negotiating that deal with Ukraine or whatnot. Like they're looking at that like, oh, Russia is like the US is trying to move Russia in their favor. Like we don't like that. Like and we're taught over here that it's like Russia and China's like this, but to them they're like, oh, Russia's like kind of like cozying over to like the US. We don't like that, right? So yeah, so it's very different, and it's like, wow, like so what you're being told is like there's a lot of propaganda going on both sides, right? Yeah, so that was definitely interesting to see as well, right? But yeah, things aren't what they seem. So
and there you have it, folks. Like I said, thanks for coming out. I appreciate. Hopefully we can catch up again and, you know, talk some other stuff out. And for the folks who tapped in, I appreciate y'all too. Jump Out Girls, Day on the Move. D on the Move. Okay, D on the Move. D on the Move. I like that one. That was a good play on words there. And Larry Davis, Ozzy, Theater of Absurd. Appreciate the lurkers, like I'll be saying, the lurkers, the scammers. I appreciate y'all too. Again, we see how it work on the back end. And remember, I'm not promoting nothing crypto related in these comments because I'm not a financial advisor or a CPA or a lawyer. But this episode is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. I'm gonna have him on here, I think, in like a month or two, because he was saying he wanted to go to some conference thing that was going on, and then like it's still tax season stuff. So I'll have him on at some point so he could talk about some of the things that have been updated within this new administration, and with how things are going with Doge and blah blah blah. But as I say, have a productive over busy day. The best that I can wish for y'all is to be in a safe place, in a safe space, and in good company, and from one human to the next, right? So other than that, I hope y'all have a good one, and I should catch y'all next Monday. That should be how it goes.